With governments around the world clamping down on anything that lets you conduct your private business in private, surely this is the end of privacy cryptocurrency coins like Monero, right? Or is it? Today we're discussing privacy coins in general, but we're focusing specifically on Monero. We'll discuss what it is, how it's different from other cryptocurrencies and even different from other privacy coins, and we'll discuss how the government regulation is going to affect this market. Because we all love privacy, but we don't want to end up in prison or worse because we use tools that the government deems are illegal. Welcome back to Renegade News. I'm your host, Glenn Kowalski. Every week on this channel, we discuss the latest news, strategies, and tactics for breaking free from the system, paying less tax, and living anywhere in the world that you want. So let's just jump right into it by discussing the Tornado Cash crash and the consequences to privacy coins in general. Monero, also known as XMR, is a privacy coin, similar to Zcash or Pirate Chain, and privacy coins are cryptocurrencies that can't be tracked or traced. And there's always been this demand for them because some people like to keep their online identities private and they don't want their crypto transactions made available for everyone to see. Well, back on August 8th, 2022, the US Treasury Department blacklisted a piece of computer code known as Tornado Cash, which is a software code that allowed users to make their crypto transactions anonymous. Basically what it does is it turns the transparency of blockchain technology into this black box. So it hides all of your crypto activity. So as a result of this, the US Treasury Department blocked access to Tornado Cash, prohibited any US individuals from actually using it now or in the future. So while the US government didn't actually punish privacy coins or go after privacy coins directly, this banning on this type of technology, on this type of code, place restrictions on the type of blockchain technology that makes those privacy coins actually possible. So it's a much bigger sweeping regulation. Now, this really could spell disaster for privacy coins, especially because the US government linked Tornado Cash to cybercrime and money laundering, which carry huge and severe prison sentences and more. So it's not like they're small-time crimes. Getting caught in these situations can be extremely serious. So for many analysts, this Tornado Cash banning spelled the end or the beginning of the end for privacy coins in general. And many people thought that was going to be the end. But surprise, the privacy coins through this held steady in their value even after that incident. In fact, Monero was up 3.2% over the first 7 days after what people are calling the Tornado Crash Gate. And Zcash was up 14% over that same time period. Also, a number of high-profile people within the crypto world have spoken out in support of Tornado Cash, so people aren't running from it. For example, Vitalik Buterin, the co-founder of Ethereum, says that he has used Tornado Cash in the past for completely legitimate purposes. He used it when he donated money to Ukraine. He used that technology, the Tornado Cash, to mix his crypto so that the Russian government couldn't see his Ethereum moving from one crypto wallet to another. And clearly, there are some situations when it makes sense for you to keep your transactions private. Although BTC is the undisputed champion when it comes to overall market cap and trading volume, Monero, also known as XMR, delivers something unique as a privacy coin because it's a cryptocurrency that hides the data about its users. So in order to understand privacy coins and Monero in particular, we have to talk a little bit about the difference between Monero and Bitcoin. Contrary to popular belief, Bitcoin transactions aren't anonymous, which is something that has been touted for years. The payments are actually fully traceable on the public blockchain. So that means it's possible to keep an eye on stolen Bitcoins, as we've seen following an array of high-profile hacks over the years. So what sets the Monero and the Bitcoin blockchains apart is the cryptography used when the transactions are actually executed. Monero, XMR, uses a technology known as ring signatures, and that ensures that senders and recipients of crypto payments cannot be identified. So the premise behind these ring signatures is really simpler than you might think. Basically, the person who is responsible for authorizing a transaction is included in a group that contains people who have authorized transactions in the past. This creates decoys that make it very difficult for anyone outside to know where the payments are coming from. Now, in recent years, the number of ring signatures used by Monero has increased, boosting the level of anonymity that users can expect by quite a bit. Now, Bitcoin, BTC, currently has a circulated supply of around 19.11 million coins, although a sizable chunk of those are feared to have been lost forever. Some Bitcoin holders have lost the keys to their wallets, while one unfortunate man in Wales accidentally left thousands on a hard drive that went to a landfill. So that means that there are about 1.89 million left to discover in the next 120 years or so. In other words, about 9% of the total supply is still unmined. Contrast this with Monero. There are more than 18.1 million tokens in circulation, and it has met its total supply, but logistically, it has no maximum supply, so it continues to grow. From June 2022, block rewards were scheduled to be fixed at 0.6 XMR per block, and under the new software rules, rewards for new blocks will never ever drop to zero. This is also known as tail emission. However, because the supply of XMR is known, users can prove they have ownership over their coins and secure their values. The next big important difference, and in my opinion, one of the biggest and most important reasons to look at Monero, is fungibility. Fungibility basically means that one block can be directly swapped with another block. Or to simplify it even more, any one coin, any one piece of Monero, or whatever coin we're talking about, can be swapped for any one coin of another type of that coin. So one Monero can be swapped for one Monero. No matter where you use it, one will always be worth one. That's important because of how an asset has been used in the past can make a coin become less valuable. For example, if a Bitcoin was used in a terrorist activity or in a drug deal, the US government could make even having that coin in one of your wallets illegal. So just by carrying it, you're carrying a coin that was used in an illegal transaction, and that means it's not fungible. Now, that coin that you just used, or that you own, because it can be used legally in the US, is now less valuable than another coin that is clean. XMR Monero is fungible because those funds lack any trail. So whereas each Bitcoin has a unique identifier that means its journey since the coin's inception can be traced, with Monero it can't be. So that way you don't know what history there's been on one Monero coin. So that Monero coin is always going to be worth one Monero. So with this, people often ask, well, should we be using Bitcoin? Should we be using Monero? And that really comes down to different needs. So when it comes to using Monero versus Bitcoin and which would be better for you, a lot of it will depend on your personal circumstances. You may value XMR because it affords you privacy when you're completing transactions, and that type of an entity that's often seen with cash. Cash is very anonymous. Once you've spent it, it's not tracked and it's gone. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're buying anything illegal or that you're doing anything wrong. It just may simply mean that you're concerned about your activities being monitored, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, it is fair to say that Monero's existence creates some rather tricky issues when it comes to regulations. The next reason that people use XMR versus Bitcoin is because they are doing criminal activities, obviously. And there's this common question when it comes to Monero is whether criminals are regularly using this privacy coin to fuel their illicit activities. Well, in 2021, research from chain analysts suggested that Bitcoin still remains the criminal's cryptocurrency of choice, primarily because it's much easier to use. Now, of course, US dollars are used more than any of those, but that's a discussion for another day. Anyway, there has, however, been this marked rise in the number of darknet markets, which are commercial websites which are used on the dark web for illegal activities, and those are starting to accept XMR. And this has become a concern for governments and countries around the world who've expressed concerns that XMR could be used to finance terrorists, launder money, or to evade taxes. As I said, these things have been going on with US dollars forever, but Monero does make it much easier to be anonymous about it. Now, because of its decentralized nature, that means that it can be very difficult to uncover those illicit transactions because once they're done, the money is completely untraceable. In 2020, America's Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, announced that it was offering a $625,000 bounty to anyone who had the ability to crack XMR's code. The contracts were awarded to cryptocurrency forensic data analysts, chain analysts, and Integra FEC. If these companies are able to develop solutions to crack the privacy of Monero transactions, it could have a substantial impact on the battle of XMR versus BTC. Next, there's this impact on value. Any evidence that Monero's cryptography isn't as effective as we think it is could affect the overall value of that privacy coin. And that would cause the value to plunge because obviously that's its main utility. So if there's any holes there, the value is going to plunge. And we've already seen how much of an impact regulatory activity can have on the value of an altcoin, with XRP crashing by more than 50% after the US Securities and Exchange Commission announced that it was pursuing a lawsuit against Ripple. The next factor that you have to think about with Monero is its availability. But there's another problem when looking at XMR versus Bitcoin, and that's the available on crypto exchanges. Because cryptocurrency exchanges are worried about regulatory compliance, many trading platforms aren't going to offer Monero to their customers. So because of that, most mainstream customers are only going to find themselves able to invest in Bitcoin and other altcoins that are not private. Kraken, for example, delisted Monero for UK customers in November of 2021. And that could happen other exchanges throughout the world, and that could cause availability issues in the future, depending on how that regulation evolves with the market. Generally, transactions on the XMR blockchain can take as long as 20 minutes. And that means that this altcoin isn't really practical as a means of payment, especially for buying smaller items where you want an instant transaction. Bitcoin's blockchain averages out at approximately 10 minutes, and people are already complaining about that. So clearly, already Bitcoin is much slower than mainstream alternatives such as Visa and MasterCard. But it does amount to a sizable improvement on what Monero is able to do on their blockchain, so it does make it faster. Next, we have fees. And one way that XMR redeems itself is through the transaction fees, which are substantially cheaper than those of the world's biggest cryptocurrency. Bitcoin's fees have been increasing. They're still reasonable in most cases, better than using something like a PayPal, for example, but the fees are higher than using a MasterCard or a Visa, generally speaking. Now, generally, Monero can be sent for a couple of cents, while Bitcoin can cost 20 times that much or even more sometimes. For more practical information on Monero and its many uses, read our blog, Monero, Privacy and the $1 Million Question. Is privacy still a good investment? I'm going to put a link to it down in the description below. Also, check out the video you see on the screen right now for our latest upload discussing cryptocurrency, business growth, and finding more freedom in this unfree world. I'm Glenn Kowalski from Renegade News, and I'll see you over there.